Hello everyone, welcome to another one of my videos. So I'm just coming out of Bethnal Green station here, and today's walk is going to be around Bethnal Green and generally the areas around Bethnal Green, which is on the east side of London. Bethnal Green is in zone 2 on the central line. So it's very central London, it's a very central area. Many of my videos and even the most recent few videos recently have always been on the west and the northwest side of London. Very rarely come over to the east side of London. So today I have to come over this way. I have already made a video on me selling my Insta360 cameras, and I had to take the camera over here to sell it. So I thought I might as well take a walk and show you the area as well. Just coming out of the Bethnal Green station, one of the exits, and right off the bat, there is this gorgeous park. I've never been through this park before. I really didn't think very much of it, but then I walked in and pleasantly surprised. It's a lovely park, much bigger than I thought. And from the name here, it's saying Museum Gardens. I think the name Museum Gardens is because right next to it, not far from here, right outside next to the park, is the Museum of Childhood. So probably why the garden is kind of being attached to the museum. So it's got name Museum of the Museum Garden. And as you can see, it's a gorgeous, lovely little place, nice and pleasant, right bang in this center of a very busy and noisy street. And you can see this building right beside the garden here. That is the Museum of Childhood. So that's probably why the garden is called Museum Garden. The reason for coming over to this side of London is because I had to take my cameras over here to sell, as there are a couple people over here that were interested in buying my old cameras. I have already done a video for that, so I will put a link to that video so you can watch that if you are interested. But the second reason, which is the reason for this video, is because I want to take you over here, take a walk over here and to show you this area of London. As mentioned previously, a lot of my videos are on the west and the northwest side of London, which is the rich, expensive, affluent area of London, whereas the east and the southeast of London is practically the opposite. Most of the east and the southeast are considered one of these poorer, generally poverty-stricken areas of London. But let's just take a quick detour and have a walk through this Museum of Childhood. So this is a museum to do with children. Anything and everything to do with children is probably in here. It's free. Yeah, most of the museums in London are free, so that's very good. So in here you'll find things like toys, dolls, teddy bears, everything that would interest a child. You'll probably find it in there. It's quite a big museum. It's free if ever you want to go and have a look. Now, Bethnal Green is in Zone 2 of the London travel network. So I think it's counter polar opposite. On the western side would be the equivalent of places like Hampstead Heath. So Hampstead Heath is also in Zone 2 on the travel network, but Hampstead Heath is one of the most affluent, richest, expensive areas of London. I've already done videos on Hampstead Heath as well, where you may like to go and have a look at it and compare, and you will see a big difference in these two areas. So Hampstead Heath is in the northwest of London, Zone 2 as well. Very exclusive area of London, whereas here, Bethnal Green, also in Zone 2, but on the opposite side of London, and you can see there's I'm just walking, looking at the road signs, make sure I'm heading in the right direction. So you can see Bethnal Green and Hackney. This is in the borough of Tower Hamlet. You can already see that, yes, the area is generally rougher, poorer looking, lots of old council housing, although you would see patches of new housing here and there. Basically, since the London Olympics in 2012, yes, the London Summer Olympics was in 2012. So around about the year 2000-ish, when London won the bid to host the Olympic. So the Olympic Stadium was built over in Stratford, which is in the east end of London. And so all this area surrounding near the Olympic Park had a cleaned up, a makeover. They call it a regeneration. So the councils, the government went through, pumped a load of money into it, gave it a good facelift, making the area a bit more genteel. They call it gentrification. Kind of had the place cleaned up and making it look much better than it used to be. But you can still see the rough edges. You can still see that it's a poorer section of London. Much of the area around Stratford, where the Olympic Park was built, most of that area got pulled down. All the old housing got pulled down and flattened out. The people got moved elsewhere to make way for the Olympic Park and to build new housing on it, because the old housing and the old condition was just too old and dilapidated. It was just easier and quicker and better, I guess, for them to just pull it all down and rebuild the whole thing. So if you go over to Stratford, you will see mostly new housing, whereas places like Bethnal Green and Mile End, these east side of London, it still retains its old traditional housing and the old traditional style, although you still see quite a few new buildings being put up wherever there is spare piece of land. So once in a while you will see a few new block of building here and there around this area. But as you can see, it's a lot of old and second-hand shops and cheap shop with lots of graffiti around here. So it does look old and neglected and kind of much poorer if you compare this to its polar opposite in Hampstead and Kensington and Chelsea. There seemed to be an invisible line that divides London into two halves. So on the one side, you have the west and northwest of London, which is a rich, affluent, beautiful, well-maintained, nicer part of London. And then on the south and southeast, if you can see here, it's looking very poor, dilapidated, lots of second-hand shops, graffiti-ridden, doesn't look very pleasant. Generally, the side of poverty and neglect. But appearance is really deceiving, because this area here, this poor area of London and its surroundings, such as Whitechapel, Aldgate East, all this area on the east side of London, is surrounded by money. Billions of pounds, because on the one side you have the financial centre of Bank, and then on the other side of Bethnal Green and this poor area is Canary Wharf, the second financial centre. So contained within its kind of borders, within the area that is in, are two of the richest, most powerful financial centres in London, if not the world, where billions of pounds are exchanged every day. You can observe that most of the housing over in this area of London are old council public housing. So the council rent them out cheaply. So if you rent it from the council, generally the rent is fairly cheap. And if you look, you can tell they're council housing because they're in big, tall block of buildings like this. If you compare them to the opposite side in Hampstead and Kensington, those rich, expensive area, you can see the housing are totally different. Housing over there are big mansions, well kept, well maintained, nicely painted, and everything. So let's take a look at one of a typical London council estate, and you can see they're just high-rise block of flats. However, I have to say, these flats were built in the days when they were building proper traditional size room houses. They may not look very much on the outside, but inside it's usually very spacious, very roomy, with separate rooms for everything. So you have separate bedroom, separate bathroom, separate toilet and kitchen and all that kind of thing. And many of these council houses, they probably have been sold to the tenants and become private property now, because I think that there's a law that allow the council to sell off these council housing to the tenants. And I think if you live there for a certain amount of years, certain amount of time, you can actually buy them at a discount. So many of the tenants have bought their own council housing, and many of them have become kind of a private housing now. And the tenant, once they've bought their flats, they can either sell it on for a profit and move elsewhere, or they rent it out. Because, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of these people that works at these bank and financial centres in London need a place to live, and these places are very near to these financial centres, so they are in high demand. So yeah, they may not look very much from the outside, these houses, but the cost of rent and property is just as expensive in this part of London as anywhere else in London. I cannot help but stop and admire these gorgeous flowers. They're so beautiful, and they had a beautiful scent, really nice rose scented flowers. So yeah, just have to stop and admire and have a good sniff at the scents. Let's have a quick look around another housing estate. So this one looks much better. It has a bit of a green space, some trees, and kind of nature, whereas the previous one is much more just concrete and not so pleasant as this one here. Yes, and as mentioned, a lot of these council housing are very secure, kind of solid structure, and you don't really hear your neighbors unless they have a shouting match or something. The soundproofing is very good on this traditional housing, whereas a lot of the new built flats, they're awful. They look very nice and modern and clean from the outside, but inside is really flimsy. Some people even complain they can even hear their neighbors snoring. It's that bad. Uh, the housing are really small. The flats are all built with a tiny little room, not even cupboard space to store anything. And then the kitchen and the bathroom are usually right in the center in a corner somewhere with no window. So you have to permanently have the lights on and the extraction fan on. Otherwise, it's really stinky, smelly, and horrid. You can hear every step your neighbors take. It's not very pleasant. So a lot of these new housing are built quickly, cheaply, to house young single people who work long hours in the office and just come home and go to sleep, basically. As you can see, this area is full of public council housing, and I'll taking you into one of his communal stairway in one of his council housing block, just to give you an idea what it's like. But we have also come to the end of this video. Hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. We'll catch up with you again in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.